All right, looks like folks are joining. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to this week's session. My name is Kate Tingley. I am the Director of Marketing here at Infinix. This week, I am excited to be joined by Bowman, our VP of Strategic Accounts. This week, we're going to explore how leveraging a billing partner can help improve your revenue cycle. So welcome, Bo. We are excited to have you join us.
Thank you. Thank you. This is great.
All right. So let's jump right in. You're meeting with practices all the time. What are the most common billing challenges that you're seeing right now, specifically with providers that are billing in-house?
Yeah, really kind of having the technical labor and having the technical know-how in your practice, whether it's primary care or specialty care. Typically medical practices are trying to run as lean as they possibly can. So to go out and spend, a lot of money, salary, benefits, trying to have the biggest workforce as you can, but keep it lean and have the technical labor you need to produce clean claims is quite the challenge. There's other challenges for in-house billing. Medical offices don't always have the ability to keep up with payer changes, with insurance, really rule changes. So 1 year we may bill a certain batch of claims one way, and the next year we may bill it a little bit different with a little bit different modifier. And having somebody that's keeping track of all that and updating new codes when they come in, it poses some real challenges. And so, that's one place where, using an expert vendor can be real helpful.
How do you see providers dealing with these challenges right now, especially staffing?
Sure. I would say actually some of the smaller practices, like maybe a 2 to 4 man OB-GYN group or a 2 to 4 man primary care group or a dermatology, it's when it's kind of concentrated like that, it's much easier to deal with. And so if they have 1 or 2 bright, smart, engaged folks in the practice, then that's okay. Sometimes they just need consulting help or maybe a billing partner to come alongside of them and rework their efficiencies in their EMR to ensure that claims are clean. Honestly, though, when the practices get larger and you get into kind of an 8 provider, 12 provider, 25 provider and more type practice, I would say that's where a billing vendor really starts to produce economies of scale, because we can do on a mass scale with fewer people and our expertise and our automated services that a large medical practice may have to have many coders, billers, et cetera, in their billing office to pull off the same services, which is a lot of overhead and a lot of management and a lot of headaches. So, I think at ERS, we really try and tailor a program to the size really of each practice.
How can partnering with a billing company provide a long-term solution for these challenges? You and I spoke a little bit before we jumped on about staffing in particular, and the fact that challenge is not going away. And so how can a billing company help with that?
You're going to have turnover. It's just a fact of life. And the best employees you have in your practice, maybe you've got a certified professional coder, and the need for coders is just extreme these days, and so they really can kind of go out and name their price, and that's hard to do when really reimbursement at the practice level is not going up. If anything, we're fighting for it to just kind of stay flat. So I think what's neat about a vendor like us, or really any billing vendor, is we can kind of do a la carte. If you just need us to do your front end billing, for instance, your insurance verification and getting authorizations for your procedures or your diagnostics, maybe just doing your coding or auditing and doing pre-bill, we can do all those services. And if that's what you want to start with, and that's a good way to go about it. Or if you want the full end-to-end revenue cycle management services, then we can attach on to pretty much any practice management, system that you use and provide that full array. So, at ERS, we we want to just do what's best for the practice. And again, sometimes that's just adding some a la carte that they wouldn't otherwise have to hire, or technology they wouldn't otherwise have to go out and pay for.
It's a really good point. As you're looking at potentially partnering with a billing company, look for somebody that's flexible and can provide what you need, not someone that's going to force you to outsource the whole thing when that may not be beneficial. So I hear a lot of practices over my time in healthcare, and I know you've heard your fair share as well, that are hesitant around bringing in outside help, right? I mean, that's your revenue, that's your livelihood. That can be tough to outsource. So what are some of the reasons that you hear?
I've been on both sides of the equation, managed practices, and kind of now on the vendor side. And, in addition to hiring and retaining good, loyal employees that are going to help the billing cycle in your practice, work-life environment and work-life culture is very important. You want them to feel like they've got really solid jobs and job security and a set of work tasks they can come and subscribe to each day. So the moment you start even bringing up the word either outsource or we're going to try out a vendor or whatever, it's just human nature that, folks are either going to start looking for other jobs or they're going to question if they're needed. And so, now you may be kind of fighting a couple of challenges there. So I think from a vendor perspective, the idea is to help the practice evaluate what it is they're doing very well, and then what it is they need, what it is they need help with. And so then when you come in and you kind of meet with the practice, if everybody in the practice understands, we're potentially not here to replace you, we're kind of here to come alongside and see if we can put in, again, either some automation or some technology, or some coding and consulting advice, maybe some audit. Then it starts to kind of lessen a little bit of the fear and anxiety that maybe some of the employees are having in the practice. At the principal level or the ownership level, of course, there's kind of the control factor, right? We're talking about somebody's livelihood, 2 or 3 or 4 providers that have gotten together and built a practice and maybe grown it to 4 or 5 locations and are integrated with various health systems, and to just kind of all of a sudden give up control of how your cash comes in each day and how it's managed, and that's a tough decision. So again, we like to sit down with each provider and each principal and explain our process and ultimately explain what we do well and the fees associated with that, and how we really should be able to bring up what they're bringing on a daily, weekly, monthly revenue basis. To a percentage that makes sense for them to go forward with the vendor.
Brought up a really good point around work-life balance. I mean, the majority of these folks that are in practices where they are short-staffed, they have incredibly stressful days, more work than they could ever do. But at the same time, there's always that concern around, is this company going to take my job? So important to work with a company that can help work with your practice around how is that messaged, and really, let them focus on patient care, let them focus on what they're best at. And, the billing company should just be there to lend a hand.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think you're spot on there. And, when you look at it, really, maybe even 10, 15 years ago, the fear was that, the billing company was going to come in and say, okay, well, you need to use our EMR, and you need to use our practice management system, and you need to do, your diagnostic, coding this way. And, so I think a neat function about Infinix and Enhanced Revenue Solutions is we can work with any practice management system. We can work with any internal, external staff or other vendors. We provide coding education to the providers. So, really it's always good. We can just start slowly with 1 or 2 functions, and, maybe we help with their registration process and cleaning that up, which will ultimately reduce their denials. So again, just kind of start slowly and say, hey, we're not here to replace what everybody's doing.
If I am thinking about bringing in a billing partner, what can I expect in terms of direct impact on my revenue?
Again, kind of backing into it. We like to look at, kind of cash collections by provider and look at the breadth and the width of that provider's practice. And, maybe they have a specific type of procedure they do or a specialty they do. And, maybe they're getting paid on that, 80% of the time, the first pass, right? So our goal is to improve the overall efficiency to make sure they get paid 98, 99, 100% the first pass the claim is submitted. So, you really, when you bring on a vendor, you better expect at a minimum that the vendor is covering their fees, and then on top of that, there should be another anywhere from, 7, 8, 9%, upwards of 25% in additional year-over-year collections that they're bringing to the practice, either based on their expertise or based on the pace in which they can do things, which, should be faster than what the practice experiences, as typically they're limited on labor, resources and technology.
I think those numbers are good. I think one thing I would add to that is if you're working with a billing company, you better be getting reports on a monthly basis that are showing those exact numbers that you just talked about and what that looks like in terms of denials, collections, and all of that. And if you're not, then it's probably time to have a discussion with that vendor.
Absolutely. Every vendor that you deal with should have a dashboard, right? Either your internal or your external stake should have a dashboard that has all the important metrics on it, how you did with your charges, your collections, any issues you had with your accounts receivable that month, credit balances and how you're working those things. So, we have a dashboard for every single practice. We try and have our reporting package done, 3 or 4 days after the month is closed out. And then, within that first week or so, we like to get our dashboard and our reporting package and the analysis out to the medical practice and let them review it and ingest it. And then, try and have either a call or an in-person meeting to review what happened that month and then, kind of forecast what's going to happen in months going forward. You see dips, right? Spring break comes along, holidays come along, July 4th comes along. And,
Sure.
Sometimes when you see some of the dip, it kind of causes some anxiety, but then, you remember that we have real, up times and seasonal peaks where we're extremely busy, and you can see that in the revenue cycle. So, just helping the stakeholders of the practice realize that, it's kind of the long game and we'll make sure that, we're literally chasing the dollar every single day.
And take time to really look at that report if you are the practice manager or practice stakeholders. That's really important as well. And if there are numbers, quality numbers, accuracy numbers, turnaround time, and those numbers are the exact same every single month, it's probably time to ask some questions and dig a little deeper, especially if you're seeing some issues with reimbursement and denials. I know spoken with many practices and that have had similar challenges around reporting and just not getting accurate reporting that's actually telling them something. So, all right. So we talked a little bit about what to watch out for, but if I'm going to vet a billing company, what questions should I ask?
A few things come to mind. First, I'd want to know, and I've done this before, I've vetted quite a few billing companies. A lot of things, what I want to know up front is like, what technical expertise do you have? So let's say you've got a high acuity, cardiology practice that, maybe has an internal, cardiothoracic surgical group, or, maybe you have a very busy ear, nose, and throat practice, and you've got, specialty surgeons in there, or, spine surgery, pain management. There's very specific coding that goes on. There's very specific authorizations that must be done, clinical documentation. And so, as you're trying to figure out, do I want to try and staff up and do all of this on my own so I can control it well and then fight the turnover factor? Or, do I want to have a vendor partner come alongside me, and do they have the technical resources that we need? And are they going to be able to continue to staff those technical resources year after year after year? And so that's one thing I look for is, technically, do they understand? Do they understand the governmental changes? Do they understand if Medicare is, potentially changing a rule on how we're going to get paid or how we code? I think that's very important. And then just basic stuff. Ask for references. Ask the vendor, how many clients do you have right now? Who are you billing for? You want to make sure that you're going to be a high priority for that client, and not just a number and, not just another reporting package that you get. You want to make sure they're going to have a manager for your account, somebody that's attending to your needs, and really feel like they're going to come along and be a part of the practice, and, not just, again, if you will, just kind of a finance office that shoots out reports to you, right? They need to feel like, they're going to be a part of the family.
Thank you, Bo. This was great. Lots of really good information. Any last minute words of wisdom in terms of billing partners that you want to share?
I would just be, again, I tell our team this too. It's like, don't be afraid to escalate. Don't be afraid to say, well, we'll just, we'll pay the staff a little extra more, and we'll have them work a little extra. Like, you can only work so hard, and my advice is bring along partners that can help you work smarter and not harder. And that should realize, really high quality, high service, high revenue.
Right. And keep those staff that you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks everyone so much, Bo. Thank you again. This was super helpful. And we look forward to seeing everyone back here next week.
Thank you.